got a question for you guys because I was talking to somebody about this, and it was after watching The Last Dance, which is amazing.
It was really good.
Yeah, just those 2 episodes. Like I'm so hyped for the rest of it. But they said that they didn't know, they weren't sure if Popovich would have been able to coach the Chicago Bulls to championships. And like initially, I'm like, you know what, that's dumb. Of course he would, and I have my own reason for thinking he would, but then their reason for him not being able to was, well, it's so many egos and he never really had to experience big egos, and when he has, he got rid of them. Yeah. So do you think that Pop would have been able to coach that Bulls team?
That's a great question. I think you put it in pretty good context of why you would doubt the question, right? And say maybe not so much. I think that's because you're absolutely right. I mean, one, I think we're unique. That him and Tim Duncan, that relationship is unique. That's something that's a match made in heaven. And we had all the success that we had because we didn't have those.
I'm gonna say, I think he probably could. I think it'd be an entirely different way. I think a lot of our team stuff stems from Tim being the way he is and kind of making that blueprint. But one thing I say about Pop is he's adaptable. And I think if he been given a different team that, yeah, he could have made something work. Would they have won as much? I don't know. No one can really say.
When it comes to basketball, I mean, all of us would agree, right? I mean, there's no doubt that he could do it. It's not that he could do it when it comes to X's and O's and basketball and strategy. He has the goal. He has the IQ for it. He can coach any team, absolutely. But could he? I mean, let's give credit to Phil Jackson here, man. Phil Jackson is not a great X and O's guy, kind of like the way Pop is. He's not. They don't do the same things well. But Phil Jackson is the best almost ever to do it at managing personalities and players and kind of getting the craziness, allowing the craziness to be there. Because I think the Spurs do that too, but we prevent the craziness from getting there beforehand, I feel like. So, that's where all this player the character development, all that stuff is huge here. But Phil Jackson, man, I mean, we're seeing it. Like, Jesus Christ, the issues that he had to deal with there, not just from the players, but from his GM. You know what I'm saying? Like, the whole thing with Scotty's contract. Oh, my God. Like, to be able to manage all those issues and still put out a championship product is unbelievable.
It's just amazing because we had to see Phil Jackson do it with, the Bulls' egos, and then a couple of years later, he had to deal with it with the Shaq and Kobe egos. So props to Phil Jackson for having to deal with all those egos.
And again, that goes back to my point earlier about Tim Duncan and not having the ego problem. Like, obviously, we praise our front office, we praise Pop and everything, for all the work they've done over the years, but it all starts to me with Tim Duncan. Having a player of his caliber, not have an ego, not be a problem in the locker room, and actually be like the solution to everything. I mean, that is just paramount to the success of an organization. And the fact that he was able to be that consistent rock for us for so long. I mean, I know even when his numbers were kind of falling and, people sometimes will criticize his production in his latter years, like it still can't be understated how important that is, because we had to rely on other guys, younger guys. Sometimes we brought in free agents, LaMarcus Aldridge, David West, David Lee. Well, David Lee was actually 2017 after he retired, but regardless, still my point stands that, I mean, it's just so important to have, your best players not only be your leaders, but be someone that, the guys look forward to playing with. I mean, there was a great quote from Steve Kerr when he said, because he played with Michael Jordan and Tim Duncan, he was like, at times it felt like we were playing with Jordan, and with Tim Duncan, it was always playing with him. Just the huge difference between the two.
Yeah, it's that Jordan Kobe similarity is that in their own practice they're the alpha, and they make everyone rise to their level by in a different way. Like Timmy kind of like shepherds them, like, come on, my young, my teammates, follow me to greatness, and Jordan and Kobe had that mentality of like, Like if you don't belong on this court, get the hell out of here. And they're gonna like tell you in the face. And if you're not dinging me up, then I don't even want you guarding me, coach. Get him off me. Get someone else on me that can guard. You know, like they would do stuff like that with the teammates. And it was there were two separate entities, Coach Pop and Timmy, and Phil Jackson and Jordan and Kobe. But both I feel like just as equal and just as powerful forces, man. I mean, match made in heaven for both sides.
I think part of Tim Duncan doing that, coming in and being the more guy where it's like, you know, you play with me, is kind of maybe because he came into a situation that was humbling to begin with. I mean, he's coming under David Robinson, who's already established as a Hall of Famer at that point. Mm-hmm. So part of that could have been it as well, because he came in as a fan. Mm-hmm. My argument for thinking that Popovich would be able, because another thing they said was, well, Pop, you know, he sits too many players, and Michael Jordan wouldn't have stood for that. I was like, first off, Michael Jordan is the greatest, in my opinion, greatest player of all time, period. And I have a hard time believing Popovich, who gave the keys to Kawhi Leonard and let Kawhi Leonard, at one point, it looked like just the Kawhi Leonard team, where just go to Kawhi, get out the way. At one point, I have a hard time believing that he wouldn't have done that for Michael Jordan. He would have saw the greatness there. So I know a lot of people jump to the 2013 finals when he sat down Tim Duncan. Yeah, that was pretty bad. I think he was overcoaching at that point. But at the same time, Tim Duncan was still getting significant minutes. And yeah, it's Michael Jordan. Like he would have played Michael Jordan. I don't.
Duncan was 13 All NBA in 2013.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and one question I was going to say, one thing I look at last night, like we're talking about egos and Pop, but the other thing I think would make a difference is just like the system we have. Like we're talking RC. It seemed like a lot of the problems they had in this last season, at least so far that we can discern, come from their GM. I mean, they said the freaking GM told Phil Jackson he didn't care if he won every game the next season. He was done. Like, can you imagine if RC told Pop that? Like, after winning 5 championships, because it's a similar situation doing that. But like, I'm wondering too. Like, yeah, there's egos and all that, but we'll have to see as this thing goes on. But like, how much of all that stuff comes from a mismanaged front office and all that? And you know, one thing Pop's been good at, you know, it takes me back to like, you know, 2014 when Pop's out there and Tony's talking to him and kind of, you know, getting him to back off. And then Tony goes and draws up a play. And then, you know, he's giving the clipboard to Manu and letting him coach. So I honestly think he'd be willing to step back and let, you know, Jordan, Pippen do their thing. And that was what they're talking about in there. One thing is like, we don't like somebody who doesn't play with us, making all the decisions without any of our input. And like, I think that's one thing we do well as an organization is
he had to do that with Manu. Remember, you know, he finally, after like, you know, Manu was a rookie, and, you know, in the first couple of years, he was trying to, you know, coach him so hard and try to get him to, you know, buy into his system and everything. And he didn't really, it took him a while to finally understand that, you know, Manu's just the type of guy, you just kind of have to let him go and do his own thing. You know, Manu's a guy you're going to win with, and Manu's a guy you're going to lose with. But at the end of the day, you know, he's going to hit you, get you that big bucket. He's going to, you know, get you that big win and, you know, help you win a championship. And I absolutely agree. I mean, I think Pop is more adaptable than I think people think. Obviously, you know, this season probably doesn't really help my case, but, you know, yeah, he's actually a very humble coach, in my opinion. I mean, he doesn't have a huge ego when it comes to, you know, who's making the decision making. I mean, he always credits Chip. How do you say his last name? Chip
England.
Yeah. England, yeah. Always credits him, you know, when he's talking about, you know, player development and their jump shooting and all that. So, no, I agree 100%.
Dude, think about how much basketball has changed since 99 to 2014 and being able to win in 3 different decades. That's not easy. And if you look at the team early on in 99 and you look at the team in 2014, like the Spurs were doing what Warriors were doing before the Warriors, where they saw the Warriors and shooting all these threes. We're the ones who kind of started that, you know, post 2010s. So yeah, man, he would have adapted. And it's like I said, it's Michael Jordan. It's not like he would have, because I know a lot of people say, well, he's too authoritative. It's like, man, it's Michael Jordan.
to the point, I'll offer this one. It's probably gonna be controversial counter argument about like that. I think Pop was a little bit more adaptable than we think this year because we're talking about like team ball, but we've never seen really the Spurs go out, have two high-paid free agents, and try to run their entire team through two guys. And it's now a star power league, and I think that's Pop trying to get with the trend. Obviously, he's forced to get with that trend with the Kawhi situation. I think he would have rather had Kawhi in LA, but I think it's different than what we're doing. And clearly it didn't work. And I think we're going to start seeing a lot of changes because we started seeing